Empress Lin felt that her whole body's breath was frozen at this moment. Her hand holding her sleeve trembled slightly, and then she grasped it harder and harder. Her fingertips turned white because of excessive force. Is this man really going to die? Yes, they have been married for more than 20 years. Now even she is wrinkled. They are all old. It's not surprising that Beirongdi has come to this step. Since ancient times, the Emperor Xiaoshu is shouting more long live, still cannot change this fact. Empress Lin suddenly felt sad. She waved to Imperial Dr. Lu and sat on the edge of the dragon couch in a trance. Baorong Emperor's political achievements in this life are still very clear. When he was young, he was also a good emperor who worked hard. In recent months, he became a little irritable, but he had no influence on the country. Empress Lin had some feelings for him in her heart. Thinking of this, Empress Lin could not help holding Baorong Emperor's hand, with a deep sadness in her eyes. Your Majesty, I can't imagine that you really want to go before me. I married you for more than 20 years when I was young. For so many years, you have been very kind to me. But these days, why do you want to leave me behind and scold me in public? Do you know why you treat me like that? Is it the son of your favorite lady who wants to make him the crown prince? Emperor Lin took Emperor Baorong's hand and murmured to himself. Looking at Emperor Baorong, he looked sad and resentful. He was extremely contradictory, but he was also extremely attached to him. At this moment, Baorong Emperor, no longer fierce above the court hall, lies quietly on the dragon couch, with high intelligence, eyes closed tightly, the same wrinkles on his face, eyes flabby and drooping, lips pale and colorless. But Empress Lin seemed to see Baorong Emperor when she was young through such a pale and old face. She immediately put on a smile. She didn't know whether it was self-mockery or jealousy at the bottom of her eyes. Your Majesty, the son of Shufei does look like you when you were young, but he is not as brave and fierce as you. Why do you take a fancy to him? Why don't you tell me where your imperial edict is hidden? It's true that in the past 2 months, although she was under foot restraint, her father was a marquis in the east, and her brother was a general guarding the frontier. Naturally, some important news came to her word for word. Although Emperor Baorong never mentioned it in the imperial court, he often summoned important officials in private to discuss the issue of establishing a crown prince. Unfortunately, there was no final conclusion. However, according to Donglinhao's conjecture, Emperor Baorong fainted a few days ago. I'm afraid he was frightened and must have written the imperial edict. With this in mind, Empress Lin suddenly let go of Emperor Baorong's hand, and her smile gradually became a bit proud and crazy. But it's a pity that no matter who you pay the most attention to in your heart, it must be Li heir who will ascend the throne in the future, and this palace is naturally the Supreme Empress Dowager, the only Empress Dowager in the palace. Yen Moli lost her biological mother when she was a child. Since then, no one has ever shared the Empress Dowager's respect with her. In the future, in this palace, she is really one person below and 10,000 above. The more she thought about the situation in the future, the sadness in Empress Lin's heart was also dissipated. Instead, she was filled with resentment. You've been treating me like this recently. Don't you just want to clear the obstacles for your son Yen Sinchuan? But you forget that this palace is the daughter of the marquis in the east. There are father and elder brother holding real power behind him. Half of the imperial guards are in the hands of this palace. My elder brother has already come back. Soon, this palace will be the world of Lear and me. As for your most beautiful concubine, that bitch, and her son, I will not let go. By the way, there is the woman who was used and abandoned by you, the biological mother of Yen Beicheng. Our palace will send him down to accompany you. Empress Lin's smile faded, and she looked down at Baorong Emperor. Her red lips spoke softly. No matter how confused Yen Sinchuan was, Mo's Hang Flower and Yen Beicheng decided not to talk about it. They just stayed him until it was getting late, and even let Yen Sinchuan eat lunch and dinner with them. No matter how confused Yen Sinchuan was, Mo's Hang Flower and Yen Beicheng would not let him go. During this period, even if there were guards outside the gate, the news from the outside still came to Yenbei City one by one. Among them, the whole imperial city was in chaos. This kind of moment, Mo Ling no longer need to hide in the dark, then appear in front of the public. Yan Xinchuan couldn't sit still for several times. He was persuaded by the flowers on the street of Yanbei City. He just advised him to be calm. In the evening, Yan Xinchuan didn't want to have a meal, but the flowers on the street of Yanbei City still ate very well. "My lord, it's the palace." After dinner, Mo Ling appeared again and said in a deep voice, "Your Majesty vomited blood and fainted." The Empress temporarily imprisoned Lu Zheng and other imperial doctors for the reason that they were not proficient in medical skills. Another appointed imperial doctor went to the palace and ordered the imperial guards to surround the whole palace. Now, the palace is in a state of panic, and the imperial palace is not allowed to go in and out at will. As soon as the words were heard, another dark guard rushed in. "Lord, the second prince ordered people to surround some important officials' residences." The whole place was controlled by searching the mob. Yan Xinchuan suddenly got up, eyes full of shock. "What you said is true." "Father, did he really vomit blood and faint?" Mo Ling nodded slightly and said, "Yes, now the palace has been occupied, and it's very difficult for us to get in and out of the palace. At present, the only information we can get is these." Yan Xinchuan's sword eyebrows were tightly wrinkled together. He was completely flustered, and then he walked out toward you. "No, I can't see my father being controlled. I have to go." Now there are Yan Moli and General Chen's imperial guards in the city, and the Queen's imperial guards in the palace. Do you think you can play any role when you go there? Just as the steps moved, the cold and heartless voice of flowers on the street came in. Yan Xinchuan only felt that his full of excitement and resentment were all poured down by a bucket of cold water at the moment, cool thoroughly. He stepped back a few steps, with a strong self-mockery on his face. "Yes, what's the use of me besides being anxious?" After a pause, he turned his head, and his warm eyebrows suddenly fell on Yan Beicheng, who was sitting on the seat safely. "Brother Huang, you have an idea in your heart?" Yan Beicheng did not answer directly, but shook his head gently and said, "There is only one thing I can't understand. Normally, my father's body won't fall down so soon." The corner of the flower's lips on the street was slightly raised, and there was a sneer on the beautiful face. "Why do you think Yan Moli started so quickly?" "I'm afraid he is the only one who knows the whole story best." "You mean?" Thinking of the possibility in his heart, Yan Xinchuan's heart was completely filled with anger. How dare he? He's killing his father. What's the point of such behavior with animals? Mo Shang Flower lightly swept him one eye. "The face has no facial expression of opening. This is in your royal family, isn't it common?" Yan Beicheng leaned back and said no. Yan Xinchuan also completely quiet down. Some took off force of sat down, pursed lips not language. Indeed, for the royal family, these things are just ordinary things, and Yan Xinchuan can't find any words to refute them. This is also something that he has a little bit of resistance in his mind. His bones are fratricidal and he kills his father and his mother. He has always been reluctant to fight against each other. He is also afraid that he will come to this stage and become such a ruthless person. On one side of the flower's lips on the street, he raised a slight sneer. Even the throne of Barong Emperor was obtained after such cruel fraternity and flesh and blood struggle? Yan Xinchuan did not retort, slightly drooping his eyes, lips overflow a touch of self-mockery. "I am immersed in the past so pure days, but now I understand." Huang saw, "You just say, what shall we do next?" "You don't have to do anything, just stay in King Yu's house." Mo Shanghua is still that sentence, his voice is gentle, without too much emotional ups and downs. This time, Yan Xinchuan never so anxious, gently nodded, "I know." Huang saw, although rest assured, "I will not ask more." Yan Beicheng suddenly stood up and walked out. His face had been safe all day, and now he was dignified. King Yu's mansion was surrounded by the imperial guards, so it was peaceful in the mansion at this time, but the noise outside the mansion began to ring gradually. The roar of the soldiers, the struggle of the people, and the sound of weapons colliding have been heard gradually. Mo Shanghua also stood up and stood side by side with Yan Beicheng. Her voice slowed down and said, "Here we are." Yan North City stretched out his hand to hold Mo Shanghua's hand, eyebrows and eyes mild. "Moer, I can give you a stable soon." Mo Shanghua shakes her head and her eyes are especially firm. "Only when you stay safely in the house can you confuse Yan Moli. I have to go to this matter." Yan Beicheng's big palms suddenly tightened, and the worries in his eyes almost turned into substance. "I don't want you to take risks. Mo Ling can also go there. North City." Mo Shanghua slowed down his voice and called his name so gently for the first time. "Only if I go in person, you can rest assured that if it doesn't help, I will still be covered with poison. I have already made a perfect plan." Yan Beicheng's eyes closed slightly and shook her hands slightly. After a while, he opened his eyes again and held her tightly in his arms. "You must come back safely. Otherwise, I will go with you." Mo Shanghua hugged him and held his waist tightly. He solemnly promised, "I'll come back. Even for you and my children, I will come back safely." In the second half of the sentence, she only recited it in her heart, then released Yan Beicheng. "Maureen, take more hands with you and protect yourself. Yanbei City is still not at ease," directly called Moling. "No, I'm enough alone. I'd better leave Mo Ling to you. You can only take good care of Qinya for me." Mo Shanghua directly shakes his head and refuses. Mao Guang sweeps Qinya standing in the hall. Qinya's eyes suddenly turned red, and anxiously came forward and grasped the sleeves of the flowers on the street. "Princess, are you going to do something very dangerous?" Mo Shanghua didn't answer directly. She raised her hand to touch Qinya's hairy hair and said with a smile, "Don't worry, I'll be okay, and I'm not as dangerous as you think." With that, she took out several packages of good poison powder wrapped in oil paper and put them into Qinya's hands. "You can take this and protect yourself at the key time." Qinya's eyes were moist, and she took the poison powder with tears in her eyes. The princess can rest assured that the maidservant will take care of herself. She had nothing left. She was also a drag on the princess when she went there. She was obedient, so as not to distract her. "Just don't worry. I'll be back soon." The flower on the street comforted him with a warm voice, and then took out a few packets of poison powder and put it on Yan Beicheng. "The poison in this is enough to poison people within 2 meters of your body, so you have to accept these." Yan Beicheng did not refuse. He held the wrapped poison powder tightly in his hand and sipped his lips. Mo Shanghua is very considerate. She gives Yan Beicheng Qinya and Yan Sinchuan and Mo Ling a few packages respectively. Then she quietly retreats. She was alone, but behind her, she was not afraid. Mo Shanghua had just left the mansion, and Yan Moli led the forbidden army to encircle the whole mansion of King Yu. At this time, the imperial guards he led were no longer the first 300. He transferred 3,000 imperial guards to the palace. 1,000 of them were sent to encircle the 13th prince's mansion, and the remaining 2,000 were to encircle the whole Yuang's mansion. There are only 5,000 imperial guards stationed in the palace. Now 3,000 are here, and the remaining 2,000 are subdued by the other 3,000 imperial guards in the palace. Now, not to mention that the palace is under his control, even the imperial city has been firmly controlled by him. The imperial guards, who were originally responsible for guarding King Yu's mansion, were all flustered when they saw the battle, and they all looked at Yan Moli. "Your Highness, what is this?" One of the guards in the imperial forest was daring to inquire. Yan Moli rode on a high horse, and his eyelids did not droop when he heard the words, "I have been ordered to eliminate the anti-thieves in the city, and now I want to search King Yu's house." The guards looked at each other and were quite puzzled. It's been a whole day since King Yu's mansion was surrounded by them. Even a fly didn't fly away. How can we get in and fight against the thieves? The bodyguards are wondering, but Yan Moli obviously has no patience to continue to consume. "How, do you want me to invite my father to prove what I said with you? How can all these princes be such a pawn to him?" The bodyguard of the imperial forest complained in his heart and had to smile on his face to get out of the way. Yan Moli got off his horse and walked into the palace of King Yu. Behind him, a group of imperial guards followed him closely. His steps were neat and powerful, and the steady and neat footsteps were enough to frighten people. General Chen dismounted after Yen Moli. Before entering the mansion, he turned and looked at the imperial guards who had been removed. He said, "Take care of them for the time being." Yes. As a result, the imperial guards, who had just passed the rounds of competition between the two princes, were taken care of again. The sudden influx of a large number of guards frightened a servant girl in the house. Before they could scream, they were all arrested one by one. Even the guards in the house were all controlled by the guards as quickly as possible. For a moment, the whole house screamed. Yan Beicheng and Yan Sinshuan leave the main hall, and Qinya and Mo Ling follow them. Yan Beicheng was indifferent, and there was no fear on his face. Yan Sinshuan was a little nervous, but he was not surprised. It is Mo Ling, holding the sword tightly in one hand, paying close attention to the surroundings and taking care of Qinya from time to time. At present, only the people in Yanbei City are safe. Brother Huang, what's your intention? Yanbei City has already lost the appearance of being scared in the court hall, looking at Yan Moli with a light complexion. Yan Moli also changed his face. His modest appearance disappeared, and his face was expressionless. Yan Sinshuan, who was in Yanbei City, said, "I have been ordered to exterminate the anti-thieves in the city. Just now, I saw that you have been infiltrated with anti-thieves. I'm afraid that the fifth emperor's younger brother will be disturbed by the anti-thieves, so I have to do it." After a pause, he looked over Yan Beicheng and looked at Yan Sinshuan beside him. "I didn't expect that the 13th emperor's younger brother was also here. You disobeyed his father's will and came quietly." Yan Sinshuan didn't have fear on his face, and his warm eyebrows were tight at the moment. "I came here against the orders of my father, and I'll go to his father's face to apologize in the future, so I don't need to worry about him. However, I only know that my father ordered you to lead the Forbidden Army to fight against the mob in the imperial court. When did the anti-thief come and who gave you such great military power?" Yan Mo's fierce eyes gushed out a thick evil, cold and calm voice. "The development of things has already exceeded expectations, and the emperor naturally ordered." Yan Sinshuan flashed an angry look in his eyes and clenched his fist tightly. "My father is still in a coma now. How can I make an order? What's more, there is no basis for empty talk. Do you have an imperial edict?" "There is no imperial edict right now." Yan Mo's lips pointed out a sarcastic radiance. "Old 13, you are really naive." Yan Sinshuan's light pink lips are tightly stretched into a straight line, and his eyes are looking at Yan Moli with forbearance and hatred. Yan Beicheng, one hand pressed on his shoulder, just let him full of resentment slightly ease. Yan Moli's full of sarcasm no longer disdains to cover up and sneers. "Don't you expect him to save you? Unfortunately, he has no such ability at all." After a pause, he said, "This waste has been dormant and disguised for decades. He wants to be a pig and eat a tiger. When he comes to the imperial city, he wants to make a name for himself. Unfortunately, he is just a waste firewood lord. When he comes to the imperial city, he has no foundation and can only be trampled on by the king." At this point, his eyes showed a certain color of ambition. "Old 13, my father is in love with you, so what? You are also a waste with no foundation. No, you are even worse than him. You have been idle in the palace for more than 10 years, but now you have no ability to fight with the king. It's really ridiculous." Yan Sinshuan closed his lips tightly and didn't say a word. Yan Beicheng was smiling on his lips, and there was no anger of being insulted between his eyebrows and eyes. "Is that right? I still remember that you were frustrated many times when you were in Yuzhou." Referring to the past, Yan Mo's face suddenly sank and was covered with gloom. When he was in Yuzhou, he didn't find Yan Beicheng playing the role of a pig and eating a tiger. He made a lot of obstacles secretly. Now it's really a great insult. This is not Yuzhou. Yan Moli bit his teeth and said, "Come on, King Yu is hiding the mob. He intends to rebel. Take it quickly." The 13 princes took part in the secret, and the bodyguards joined the party. After a pause, his voice sank, life or death. Don't worry, Your Highness. General Chen bowed his head to answer, and his eyes flashed a dull color. Outside the city at that time, the pro-guards from Yuzhou, who had been instigated, were killed by all the guards stationed outside the city just as they were about to enter the city. The barracks of the Imperial Guards were on the side of their barracks. There were 5,000 of them, so it was no surprise that Yuzhou pro-guards could not be annihilated. At present, the guards have withdrawn from the foot of the Imperial City and began to occupy the whole Imperial City. General Zhao Wei, the direct manager of the Forbidden Army outside the city, had long been informed by Emperor Baorong that King Yu intended to rebel. After destroying the Yuzhou guards outside the city, he closed the city gate and could not let out a fly. Thousands of miles away in the frontier, General Lin, the elder brother of Empress Lin, had already started to gather people and horses half a month ago. His name is Beautiful. Now His Majesty is bewildered by her mother and son, and wants to establish a sick seedling who can't live more than 22 years as the crown prince. Naturally, he wants to clear the emperor's side. He managed everything well, but before he could start, all the bandits of the Moon Kingdom suddenly attacked. A few rogue bandits are harmless, but they seem to be sure that they don't have time to counterattack now. They don't confront the enemy head-on. They only attack them from time to time. As early as a few days ago, their food and grass were attacked and burned clean. Without food and grass, there was no time to ask Baorong Emperor for money to buy military supplies. General Lin was at a loss. The Imperial City also sent Empress Lin's letter, asking him to return to the Imperial City quickly, but without food and grass, how would he march? Naturally, the garrison of the Imperial City is not only the Imperial Guards and the Imperial Guards, but also 20,000 Imperial Guards in the remote wilderness. But this side of the Forbidden Army is not urgent, and this talisman is only in the hands of Prince Lien. Prince Lien is the only surviving elder brother of Emperor Baorong. But when he was young, he didn't like the government. He was so spontaneous that he never went to the early dynasty. But it was such an idle prince that Baorong Emperor gave him the talisman. However, Emperor Baorong was suspicious of Prince Lien's nature. He was willing to believe that he was still like that when he was old enough. He just handed over the military fu to him. The Prince Lien was very strange in nature. After he got the talisman, he still didn't care about the drill, and the court was not as good as before. Even in the palace half-eyeliner is not, the news is blocked tightly, all day except in Wang Fu's amusement, then has nothing to do with him. More importantly, Prince Lien didn't have deep feelings for Emperor Baorong. The barracks was far away from the capital. It could only be used in an emergency, and it would take at least 2 hours to dispatch troops. The prince's mansion had been controlled by Yen Moli for the first time. No fly could fly out, and no one could dispatch troops. This is also the reason why Yen Moli dares to start directly. Unfortunately, Yen Moli did everything, but he didn't expect that at this time, a young general in the military camp was standing on the exercise platform. He raised a tiger amulet in his hand and said, "Your Majesty fainted and died. The second prince was plotting to kill the king. Everyone listen to me and go to the city to help you. Yes, 20,000 officers and soldiers, the uniform should be in harmony, the momentum is enough to shake the earth." On the wall of the Imperial City, a small soldier suddenly rushed back and yelled, "General, it's not good. I don't know who ordered the Imperial Guards outside the city, but they are coming towards the city now." "What?" Zhao Wei's sword eyebrows were locked tightly, and his eyebrows were quite cold. "Can you make it clear that it's the Forbidden Army outside the city?" General Hui is indeed a Forbidden Army under Prince Lien. There are as many as 20,000 people. The soldier trembled. Zhao Wei waved his hand and asked the soldier to step down. His eyes were filled with doubts. Prince Lien's soldiers will only be transferred when they are most urgent. Besides, the gate of the city has been closed. When did Prince Lien's people go out to transfer troops? Naturally, because of the great events in the city, Prince Lien's talents will be transferred. As soon as Zhao Wei's voice fell, a cold woman's voice suddenly sounded behind him. Her voice was gentle and indifferent, as if she were just an outsider. Zhao Wei subconsciously touched the sword at his waist. He was as tight as a bow and turned quickly. Now that he is on the tower, there is no one behind him except the Forbidden Army. There is no woman's voice. Therefore, he is very alert. However, when she turned around, she saw a very delicate woman. Today, Mo Shanghua is dressed in a pure white dress. There is no embroidered pattern on her whole body. Her thin body is wrapped in white dress, and she is wearing armor at the back. Compared with the tall soldiers, she looks more and more weak. It is such a woman whose posture is more upright than that of the soldiers behind her. Her temperament is admirable without words. Who are you and how did you get up? Zhao Wei slightly relaxed a little vigilance, eyes are still firmly staring at the beautiful face of Mo Shanghua, eyes slightly suspicious. He seems to have never seen such a beautiful woman. Mo Shanghua glanced at the soldiers who followed him. Naturally, he brought me up. The officer bowed his head slightly and said respectfully, I'll tell you back. It's Princess Yu who said that she has something important to say to you face to face. I have no choice but to bring her up. You are Princess Yu. Zhao Wei's eyes were full of disbelief. He looked at the beautiful woman in front of him and said, your face. Mo Shanghua was not angry at Zhao Wei's reaction, but said faintly, nature has been cured for a long time. General Zhao, I'm not here to discuss my appearance with you. Zhao Wei turned his head instead of looking at the face of the flowers on the street. The princess is not in the palace now. Why is she here? Mo Shanghua took the first 2 steps. Instead of looking at Zhao Wei, she looked at the world outside the city wall. After a long time, she slowly said, it's not important. Then she turned around and looked at Zhao Wei with her eyes fixed. The important thing is that your majesty is still fainting and dying. The real ruler of the palace has become Lu Wang, and the one who gives you the imperial edict is not Baorong Emperor at all. Zhao Wei was born in a family of generals. He was full of loyalty. There was only one Emperor Baorong who was loyal to him. At the moment, when he heard the words of Mo Shanghua, he flashed a strong look of shock, and then he was more vigilant. The news of our general, your majesty is still in the palace. It's the order that I transfer the Forbidden Army out of the city, and it's also the relatives of your majesty. How is it possible to have a false message? Princess Yu, King Yu's intention is not right now. Are you here to counter our general? Seeing this, a pioneer behind Zhao Wei also came forward. The general is wise. The couple of King Yu have been wrong in their hearts. First, they provoked the people in the city to revolt, and then they ordered their own guards to fight in the imperial city. Is it not a rebellion or something? General, I can't believe a word of this which. After a pause, the man's eyes flashed a little. If you don't take Princess Yu up for a while and send her to your majesty, it will be a great achievement. This person is obviously Yan Beicheng's most worried existence. Yan Moli is careful. He not only reaches a superficial agreement with General Chen, but also quietly places his hands around Zhao Wei, for fear that Zhao Wei will not be controlled. Zhao Wei obviously also believed what the pioneer said. He stared at Hua's beautiful face on the street for a moment, and his eyes sank slightly. Come on, take it. As soon as the words fell, 2 valiant soldiers came forward to capture Mo Shanghua. The flower on the street moves, but his eyes suddenly shrivel down, and his cold voice rises. Your Majesty, since you are well, why don't you write the imperial edict? Just send your confidants to deliver the oral instructions. Don't you think it's strange? Wait a minute. Zhao Wei raised his hand, and the 2 soldiers immediately stopped. Zhao Wei's eyes were fixed on the flowers in the street, and his doubts surged up again. What do you mean by that? The flower on the street raised her lips slightly, and Qingling's voice seemed to be full of the power of bewitching people. General Zhao is not a stupid man. Don't you think that if your majesty is safe and sound at the moment, and just send a message, why do you have such great power to mobilize the forbidden forces inside and outside the city? If, after this, someone wants to frame you up, saying that you have transferred troops without authorization and that you have no imperial edict, you will be killed. Zhao Wei was shocked, as if he had been hit in the head, and cleared away those doubts in his mind. Seeing that something was wrong, the pioneer quickly continued to slander, "General, this woman is seducing people. If you let her seduce you, the consequences will be unimaginable. If your majesty blames you at that time, you are not the only one. All the brothers here will be buried together. General, you must take care of the lives of our brothers." These words obviously let Zhao Wei hesitate down, slightly drop eyes, don't know what to think. Mo Shanghua's eyes suddenly cooled down and turned to see the real, bewitching, pioneer. She suddenly raised her hand, silver flash between the fingers, a silver needle flying out of the fingers, with the power of lightning quickly into the pioneer's brow. The man didn't even have time to scream, so he fell down straightly, no longer alive, only a scarlet blood spot on his brow to show the cause of his death. Before Zhao Wei opened his mouth, all the soldiers around him were speechless. They all drew out their swords and looked warily at the flowers on the street. One of them saw that Zhao Wei did not return to his mind and said, "Your Highness, she killed the pioneer." "Make up your mind, Zhao Wei, this just returned to God," deeply looked at Mo Shang to spend one eye, "this general how also can't think of, you unexpectedly so ruthless." In the face of the glare of so many people on the wall, the flower on the street is still calm, and his voice is cold and piercing, "This man is determined to test and bewitch people, so he should be beheaded." After a pause, her red lips gently picked, "More importantly, he is not a loyal man, but the maker of this incident, Ling Wang's pawn." Zhao Wei's pupils suddenly shrank, and his body slightly leaned forward, "The minions of King Ling? What do you mean by that?" He never retreated and looked straight at Zhao Wei, "This is Ling Wang's self-directing and acting, just to seek the throne. He didn't pay attention to you and the life and death of the soldiers under your hand. You are just a chip for him to get the throne." As she said this, she turned around and glanced at the soldiers. "Now, my husband, King Yu, and the 13 princes have been surrounded by King Ling, and your majesty is seriously ill in the palace, but the whole bedroom is surrounded by the imperial guards, and the palace is already airtight." The flowers on the street reveal the truth in front of everyone. There were soldiers who were crying for revenge for the pioneer before, but now they have stopped, and they are looking at each other face to face. The knife in their hands is a little loose. Zhao Wei was also in a trance. After a while, he digested all the news from Mo Shanghua. Then, suddenly, he trotted to the wall of the city and looked down. At this time in the past, although it was not as lively as the center of the city, occasionally we could hear children crying and old women scolding. There were always people. Today, it's quiet. In front of the people's houses that live at the gate of the city, even a light is not on. From a distance, it can be seen that the direction of King Yu's residence is emitting thick smoke. It seems that the situation is critical. Seeing Zhao Wei's reaction, many soldiers came forward to watch. Zhao Wei's grip on the handle of the knife tightened a little, ordered a soldier, and said, "Now send a small group of people to the palace." Yes, seeing the soldiers go down in a hurry, Zhao Wei turned around again, "I hope you didn't cheat the general." Mo Shanghua glanced over Zhao Wei and looked in the direction of King Yu's mansion from a distance. He whispered, "I wish this didn't happen too early." Say, the right hand can't help caressing to own abdomen, the worry of Malbottom lightly flashed. At that time, Yan Moli thought it was a very simple thing to win Yan Beicheng, but he did not think that people in black appeared out of nowhere in the palace which had been controlled by the whole government, and all of them had extraordinary skills, and soon they were fighting with the imperial guards. What's more unexpected is that Yan Sichuan, who used to look rather useless, now has hundreds of bodyguards attacking from outside the mansion. The situation became complicated for a while. Yan Moli stood in the crowd, looking coldly at Yanbei City, where Enron was protected by people in black. "Yanbei City, I didn't expect that you could bring these people to the imperial city and hide them in your Yuangfu." After a pause, he looked at Yan Sichuan, "You are ready, but it's a pity that our king has 3,000 forbidden troops. You are only a few hundred people. How long do you think you can last?" Yan Beicheng's side of the lips slowly raised, the deep pupil reflected Yan Mo's cool and handsome, and some of his eyes were more dark and surreal. There are more things that you don't expect, and there's still more to come. He spoke slowly, his voice was cold and harsh as if it had been mixed with ice. Yan Mo Li's heart suddenly jumps. He is sure to win now, but he is a little uneasy. Yan Beicheng, up to now, there is no room for turning around. Don't be paranoid. Then he looked at General Chen behind him. General Chen, it seems that your people are not doing their best. Don't forget what we promised you. General Chen bowed his head slightly and said respectfully, yes. Then he turned his head and pulled a soldier to tell him, go and remove the people from the 13 Princes' mansion, and come as soon as possible. Yan Mo Li's heart is a little fixed, only cold eyes looking at the besieged in the middle of Yanbei City, the blood around and the scream have nothing to do with him. Although his grandfather Donglinhao was in a high position, he was old after all. Baorong Emperor didn't want to hand over most of the military power to her. He only handed over the imperial guards to him, and his uncle General Lin was stationed in the frontier. He was really in power. This General Chen is just managing the imperial army with Zhao Wei. If it wasn't for the major plan, Yan Moli would not make a promise. He would certainly be used by him in the future and would not be suppressed. However, I'm afraid he can't imagine what a monstrous plot is brewing in his heart when he looks at such a respectful General Chen. 1,000 bodyguards were soon transferred, and 3,000 bodyguards against more than 300 people were a battle with no chance of winning. The people trained by Yanbei City can always fight against 10 with 1, but they can't fight for a long time. More and more people fall down. The bluestone ground of the palace is stained red by strong and dazzling blood. The broken limbs and debris on the ground can be seen everywhere. A thick smell of blood in the air flows into the nose, which makes people feel extremely uncomfortable. Qinya had never seen such a situation before. She had a white smile and grasped Mo Ling's sleeve tightly. She felt a sense of vomiting in her chest. Even under such circumstances, Yan Xinchuan's face, which was slightly morbid, became pale. His hands were tightly clasped, and the unbearable hardship in his eyes did not dissipate for a moment. Yan Beicheng lowered his eyes and watched his own people being killed like this. How could he not feel uncomfortable in his heart? Just wait. Just wait. She will come back safely. Mo Shanghua is ready to put the knife on Zhao Wei's neck if he doesn't agree. At the moment, Zhao Wei, who is still waiting, is silent. I don't know how long I've been waiting, but I can't control my anxiety when I get to Mo Shanghua. I've just been sent out a small group of guards, and only one of them has been helped up. His whole body's blood, then even talk is also angry, voice is very small, the imperial palace strengthened, we showed a little doubt, then was directly killed. This will prove that the imperial city is indeed in chaos. Zhao Wei suddenly pulled out his sword, and his eyes were almost frozen. Take him down. The rest of us will listen to the command of our general now. Only 2,000 will be left. The rest 3,000 will follow me into the city immediately. He was promoted by Emperor Baorong. He is loyal to Emperor Baorong. He can't bear it now. Yes, the sonorous and powerful voices of all the officers and men rang out. The flowers on the street always seem indifferent. In fact, there is a huge stone hanging in my heart. Now I see that Zhao Wei is finally moved, and a heart falls back. General, I think we'd better go first. Before the end of the sentence, 2 soldiers who were mixed with the soldiers suddenly drew their swords and rushed to the flowers on the street. 2 soldiers left and right attack, 2 knives will be straight toward the flower cut. Even when Zhao Wei saw this, his pupils suddenly shrank. Unexpectedly, he took a step too slowly. However, Mo Shanghua's skill has always been vigorous, but in a moment, she bent down at an unbelievable angle, and then jumped to the wall. Before the 2 soldiers could react, they just felt a flower in front of them, and they were directly attacked by her 2 hands. Zhao Wei has already been walking to half of the steps suddenly stopped down, sink eyes, take these 2 people down. As soon as the words came down, some soldiers came forward and held the 2 men down. Took a stroll on the lower abdomen, and then jumped down and landed on the ground. If I hadn't guessed wrong, the two must be the eyeliner. Zhao Wei calm face slightly nodded. Now the situation is urgent, there is no time to interrogate, immediately put these two people in custody. After a pause, Zhao Wei said, Princess, the last general will go to the palace first now. If the princess has nowhere to go, she can wait here and will be protected. His address has completely changed at the moment, and his recognition of Mo Shanghua is also from his heart. A woman who is so brave, resourceful and courageous is much better than more men. When Mo Shanghua shakes her head slightly, and her eyes are fixed on him. I must go with you, and I must go to your palace first. Zhao Wei's face hesitated. He thought deeply in his eyes, but now it's your majesty who is in danger. If you don't go to the palace immediately, I'm afraid things will change. There are 3,000 imperial guards in the palace, and the remaining 3,000 imperial guards are all in King Yu's mansion now. If they don't exterminate first, there will be endless trouble in the future. Think of now or be besieged in Yuangfu Yanbei City, Mo Shanghua heart hard contraction up, besides, if not timely rescue, the kingdom of God is really no successor. Zhao Wei frowned and thought deeply, then nodded to the flowers on the street, I will understand. All the officers and men will go to King Yu's house immediately after hearing the order. At that time, Yan Beicheng, Yan Sichuan and others had been protected and retreated into the inner hall. The dark guards around had been killed and injured for more than half, and they are still protected in the inner hall. Qinya didn't get hurt at all. Instead, Mo Ling suffered many injuries on her legs in order to protect him. However, she still obeyed Yan Beicheng's words and kept her behind. Qinya's eyes were red with tears, full of remorse and worry, but she couldn't do anything at the moment, so she could only shrink behind him and look at Yan Moli with hatred. Yan Beicheng and Yan Sichuan are not much better at the moment. Yan Beicheng is highly skilled in martial arts, and there are people fighting to protect each other. They are all right, but their hair is messy and they are in a state of confusion. Yan Sichuan has no martial arts skills to speak of. He has always been weak. He is also in a mess at the moment, but because he is well protected, he has no scars on his body. However, the images in front of him are enough to make him remember for half of his life. If you have a cup of tea, there is no solution to this dilemma. Mo Ling, you will protect Yan Sichuan and Qinya to leave. Yan Beicheng holds a long sword in his hand and looks at Yan Moli standing outside the hall. The war situation at that time was already clear. Now they have been forced into the inner hall. All the guards standing in the courtyard outside the hall are armed with sharp blades. They have been completely surrounded. With Yan Sichuan's escort, there are only 300 dark guards. Now there are only more than 100 people left. On Yan Moli's side, the 3,000 guards lost only 500 people. By contrast, the remaining 2,500 people were enough to swallow up the bones of more than 100 people on Yan Beicheng's side. Mo Ling smelled speech, almost immediately asked, Lord, then you how? You just have to obey my king's orders. Yan North City does not answer, the face has no expression of enunciation. Yan Sichuan was also shocked by Yan Beicheng's words. He never thought that Yan Beicheng had to protect him in this kind of environment. His heart was full of mixed feelings for a moment. Brother Wu Huang, why do you have to be like this? Although I didn't have a deep friendship with you since I was a child, I will never leave even if I die. Qinya also went forward with red eyes. Prince, the princess can't live without you. If there is no other way, the maidservant would rather die than let you suffer here. Let's not let the future little prince and princess lose their father. Mo Shanghua's advice was still in her ears. She forbeared, and then swallowed it for the time being. Mo Ling's body is a little stiff for a while, and then comes forward to kneel down on one knee. My subordinates are incompetent. I'm afraid I won't take this responsibility. Please leave my subordinates by your side for the last fight. Yan Beicheng's face was as cold as iron. His thin lips were slightly pursed, but he could not say anything tough. He was lonely and ill-fated when he was a child. He never enjoyed family friendship. Except for his subordinates and Mo Shanghua, no one has ever lived with him. The reason why he protected Yan Xinchuan was that the covenant was in front of him and he had no other feelings. But that's why they treat each other so sincerely. Yan Xinchuan looked at Yan Beicheng, who had already hesitated. His eyes and eyebrows were full of firmness. In such an embarrassing situation, he still said, "All the people in the prince's palace listen to the order. If at the last moment, they don't have to care about my life or death. They just escort the 5th emperor's younger brother to leave safely." Yan Xinchuan's people came in from the outside, but now there are only a dozen people left. The rest of them died outside before they rushed in. Even so, Yan Xinchuan would rather fight to the last moment. This time, it was Yan Beicheng's turn to be shocked in his heart. His whole face was tense, and he pursed his lips without opening his mouth. Half handsome and half charming, scarlet face above the dim light, as evil as terror, especially in those deep black eyes, it seems that something is slowly surging brewing. "Your Highness, do you want to take them directly?" General Chen and Yan Moli were surrounded by the imperial guards, standing in the courtyard, looking down respectfully. "No, it's the last moment," but Yan Moli shakes his head at this time, and a subtle radiance rises slowly on one side of his lips. He orders people to set fire. General Chen turned his eyes and sighed. "Your Highness, King Yu, secretly sent troops into the city, provoked civil strife among the people in the city and intended to rebel. After being found, he burned himself to death. The 13 princes were bewitched by King Yu and fell into the sea of fire together. Your Highness, you are so wise." The radiance of Yan Mo's lips became bigger and bigger, and the last uneasiness in his heart seemed to dissipate with this command. In addition to the joy of being a winner, he had already seen him sitting high on the throne. However, the pride in his eyes did not last long. The guards took the torches and prepared to set fire directly. But at this time, they did not know where to shoot thousands of arrows straight into the courtyard. The soldiers could not defend themselves. For a moment, most of the people in the courtyard fell to the ground. Even General Chen didn't expect it. He just blocked the arrow for himself, but he was caught off guard by an arrow on his arm. "Your Highness, quickly withdraw into the corridor." Yan Emoli Fang's face, which had just turned clear, was gloomy again. He dodged and quickly retreated into the corridor. At the moment, the soldiers waiting in the outer courtyard also broke in one after another when they heard the movement in the courtyard. However, just after entering the courtyard, they were all killed by random arrows. The arrow clearly came down from the sky. If it was to be shot, it must be on the wall of the palace. But the soldiers who had been guarding the outer courtyard didn't feel any intruders. At the moment, they were in a mess. "Brother Beicheng, I've come to save you." When the people in the inner hall were confused, they heard a very romantic man's voice outside the courtyard. It was at this moment that they were still romantic and lazy. Yan Emoli also heard of this life, and could not help looking up. Sure enough, he saw that Hua Qianlu was standing on the roof of the main hall with both positive and negative hands. On his side, there were a group of neat women in black, squatting on the eaves with bows and arrows in their hands and arrow baskets on their backs. They were beautiful but extremely cold. These are the real strength of Qinghuan Pavilion. Lord of Qinghuan Pavilion. After Yan Moli saw Hua Qianliu's face clearly, Junyan suddenly turned black and sneered, "Just with you, you want to fight my 2,000 troops?" Hui Qianlusi was not angry, and the smile from the corner of her lips was wanton. "Tut tut, after all, I'm the richest businessman in the world. Don't look down on me, Your Highness King Ling. No one, but I still have money." In the inner hall of Yanbei City, at the moment, the deep and unpredictable eyes suddenly burst out a cloud of color. Maureen. Thin lips slightly pick, Mo Ling slightly let go of Qinya, go to the door, the sword in the hand suddenly flew towards the corridor in the hospital. Yan Moli's pupil suddenly shrinks, and he quickly backs away. The long sword stabs into the ground in front of him, half of which is not on the ground. In Yan Mo's fierce play, he was surprised and angry. Before he could speak, he saw the flowers and willows standing on the roof suddenly and gently smile, and all the people on the roof withdrew. Yen North City also at this time quickly turn around, speak extremely fast command, all follow me. Then he took the lead to enter the room through the corner door. Yen Xinchuan was puzzled, but seeing Yen Beiqing's strategy, he relaxed a little and came forward to keep up. As soon as Mo Ling turns around, he grabs Qin Ye's wrist and pulls him to follow. And at that time, Yen Mo Li's heart suddenly violent beat for a while, complexion big change, not good, quickly out. As soon as the words came to an end, there was a violent explosion in the crowded corridor. Boom, boom, boom. There were several violent blasts, followed by one after another screams. What's more terrifying is that the impact of the explosion is huge, and the whole corridor collapses with the roar, crushing all the people who are crowded under the corridor to avoid the arrow in the ruins. At the same time, more than 200 people who surrounded King Yu's mansion were killed by the people in black before they could think about the movement in the mansion. There are more than 200 people in black this time. There are about 300 men and 200 women in black this time. Every one of them is ruthless, and their martial arts are clean and neat. But after a while, all the people outside the government have been solved. The people in the mansion are worried about the scream outside the mansion, and the scream inside the founder hall. At the moment, they are all in a panic. But don't want to, just at this time, those people in black quickly climbed up the courtyard wall. The South Crane body is in among them, the vision coldly looks at the bottom of forbid guard, the voice coldly utters a word, kill. The people in black were ordered to take down their bows and arrows and shoot all the guards in the courtyard. The guards were unprepared, and now they were defeated by the foreign cooperation. There were less than 2,000 people left. They had no fighting back, and there were countless casualties. It took tens of thousands of arrows to stop. Before some lucky survivors could get up, all the people in black jumped down, put away their bows and arrows, and soon surrounded the remaining soldiers. The number of disabled soldiers is only a few hundred now. They are all seriously injured and no longer have the ability to resist. However, few people in black are injured and their faces are cold. It seems that as long as they don't obey, they will directly reap their lives. At this time, because of the big aftershock of the explosion, the inner hall also had some turbulence. The beams of the house cracked, and the bricks and tiles rolled with gravel suddenly collapsed. In a moment, the dust was flying. On the corridor at that time, Yen Moli was pressed down by a pile of corpses. He tried hard to remove these corpses and climb out of them. However, the corpses he pushed away were not complete. They were all short of arms and legs, and none of them was intact. At the last moment, it was these soldiers who tried their best to protect Yen Moli regardless of their own safety. As a result, although Yen Moli was covered with blood and dust in his hair, he had no serious injuries and could walk easily. However, when he crawled out of the ruins, the situation in the hospital had changed greatly. His face suddenly became sinister, and his eyes seemed to be filled with great anger and a deep frustration. Just one step, just one step. His eyes were full of unwilling color, and he could not help biting his teeth and biting his words. He had never seen the remains of the guard who blocked his last fatal blow in the ruins. At this time, a chill suddenly came from the neck. Looking down, it was a long sword with cold light on the neck. Yen Beiqing, holding a long sword, glared at Yen Moli, who was not stable and unwilling at the moment. His eyes were cold as a pool. You lost. Just 3 words, but it seems to poke in Yen Moli's pain. He clenched his fist, held back the anger in his heart. Those were you to let me relax? In fact, you've already designed everything, just waiting for me to throw myself into the net and ask for credit from my father. You know, too late. Yen Beiqing's eyebrows and eyes remained unchanged, and his lips were full of sarcasm. You've done everything, but you've lost too much arrogance. Hua Qianlu put his hand on Yen Beiqing's shoulder, and looked at Yen Moli who was in a mess. He made up his sword impolitely. What you know is too late. What, arrogant and conceited, according to my son, it is clear that he is too stupid. Yen Moli's eyes were red with anger, but he couldn't move because of the sharp blade between his neck. He just said, okay, but you forget, Yanbei City, the imperial palace is in our hands now. As long as your father gives the imperial edict, you are the anti-thief, and I, of course, the crown prince. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but evoke a bloodthirsty color in his eyes, and the corner of his lips was crazy. The palace is controlled by the Queen Mother and the East Marquis. It's how you control me now. The situation has long been decided. By the way, and General Lin, now, she should also go to the foot of the imperial city. Yan Xinchuan looked at all this in silence. Seeing that Yan Moli said so, he spoke slowly, second brother, there is not only the queen in the palace. Yan Mo Li's pupil shrank and his body moved. What do you mean by that? Hua Qianlu said with a smile, it's literally, of course. By the way, there's General Lin who forgot to tell you that he's still in northern Xinjiang. It's impossible for him to come here for a month. As for the palace, speaking of this, she smiles and shows her white teeth, don't worry, General Zhao will go to calm the civil strife. Yan Moli's face changed completely. He forced his calm handsome face to spasm uncontrollably and roared, you fart. Don't think you can defeat me in this way. I tell you, I can never lose. Yan Xinchuan closed his eyes slightly, and a sigh flashed in his eyes. Yan Beiqing's eyes looked coldly at Yan Moli, and the words from his thin lips were like ice, Yan Moli, it's all over. As he said that, his sword deviated a little, and he was about to be taken down by a worker. However, he suddenly seized the chance, and then took a big knife on the ground with his toes. He cut at Yan Beiqing with red eyes. Yan Beiqing reacted very quickly to block with a long sword. Chung, and chung, the sound of weapon collision aroused Yan Moli's indignation, and he cut at Yan Beiqing more fiercely. In terms of martial arts, Yan Beiqing is slightly better than Yan Moli. However, Yan Moli has made a crazy attack at this time. For a moment, he is playing with Yan Beiqing, and it is difficult to decide whether to win or not. Yan Xinchuan looked at the anxious, eyebrows gradually twist up, one side of the flower willow is smile to stop is about to come forward of Mo Ling, don't interfere, this is your master's own thing. Mo Ling seems to have something else to say, but Qinya suddenly grabbed his hand and shook his head slightly, brother Mo, you still have injuries. Maureen some stiff pause steps, silent retreat back. At that time, because of the passage of time, coupled with physical exertion, Yan Beiqing and Yan Moli had gradually separated. As soon as the sword in Yan Beiqing's hand was turned over and lightly picked, Yan Moli's sword was directly picked to the ground, and the victory was divided. Before Hua Qianlu had time to say hello to Yan Beiqing, he saw that Yan Moli, who had lost his sword, was crazy. He rushed up again with his red eyes. The dirty palm, however, seemed to emit a few threads of black gas, and the speed increased several times. In a blink of an eye, he came to Yan Beiqing. The fight, Yanbei City in the fight-up actually had a bit of difficulty. Yan Moli hands of the black gas has expanded a bit, if not lingering in his palm around. The black spirit seemed to have the power to bewitch people. It made Yan Beiqing feel a little trance for a moment. It was just such a trance. Yan Moli slapped his hand on his chest. Yan Beiqing stepped back a few steps, his chest was full of qi and blood, his lips were full of blood, and his eyes were a little black. Yan Moli seems to be completely crazy at this time. He picks up the long sword on the ground and greets Yan Beiqing again. Naturally, Yan Beiqing will not shrink back and greets Yan Beiqing again. It's just that this time he obviously has a hard time. When he sees a knife, he will cut it at his neck. It's too late for Yan Xinchuan. At this time, a cold light flashed quickly in the air, Yan Mo Li's action slightly stopped. Then, he saw a thin and delicate figure darting up, and his body appeared behind Yan Moli like a ghost. He stabbed Yan Moli's shoulder with a sword, and the body of the sword went through his shoulder directly. Yan Beiqing's whole body pressure suddenly reduced, his body slightly shook, his mouth was a burst of fishy sweetness, and his lips were dyed crimson. Mo Shanghua immediately put down his sword and rushed forward. Hua Qianlu and Yan Xinchuan also came forward at the first time, holding Yan Beiqing left and right. Mo Shanghua came forward and caressed his cheek carefully. His eyes suddenly became sour. He could not help but let his tears fall down. Yan Beicheng, what's the matter with you? Do you want to be tight? I'll show you now. Said, involuntarily to pull his wrist. Yan Beicheng pulled his wrist back, grinned at her and said, it's okay. It's just some internal injuries. Just take care of it for a few days. Said, as if to prove the general, 2 arms from Flower Willow and Yan Sichuan hands out, stand upright, you see, it really doesn't matter, now there are other things to do, let's go to work first, doing other things. Mo Shanghua looks at Yan Beicheng, as if to make sure that what he says is true or false. But Yan Beicheng looked left and right, but he didn't look at her. He held him in one hand and walked forward to Yan Moli. Tie him down and take him down. Just now, Yan Moli, who was still clamoring and unwilling, was already in a coma and fell on the ground. He didn't know why, so he was dragged down by Hua Qianlu. After ordering this matter, he raised his hand to wipe the blood on his lips and looked at Zhao Wei, who was in armor and shocked. General Zhao, this place has been dealt with. Let's go to the palace now. Zhao Weigang was still surprised at the situation here, and saw that Yan Beicheng was seriously injured, but he could deal with things calmly with such a changeable face. He was completely convinced, yes. This time, he listened from the bottom of his heart. Although Hua Qianlu and Yan Sichuan only met each other, they didn't ask more about Yan Beicheng's injury. The South Crane also entered the inner courtyard at the moment, didn't notice the difference of Yan Beicheng, only recovered his life towards him, then spontaneously stood beside Hua Qianlu. When all the people went out, the whole palace was empty, and an embarrassed figure struggled to climb out of the ruins. General Chen is no more fierce than Yan Mo, and there are several pro-guards who are willing to fight to protect each other. They are lucky to be able to save their lives. At this time, he was seriously injured in one leg, stumbled out, found an exit, and walked out slowly step by step. At that time, the Imperial Palace was also on guard against killing. All of a sudden, wearing armor and white hair, Dong Linhao entered Cunning Palace in a hurry. As soon as Queen Lin saw that the Marquis was coming, she immediately went forward to meet him. What she saw was not the joy she imagined. Her heart suddenly jumped. Father, why do you have such an expression? What's the matter? At this moment, the Eastern Marquis did not care about the courtesies of the monarchs and ministers. His old face was full of anxiety and gloom. The palace gate was suddenly forcibly occupied by the forbidden guards, and Zhao Wei was the leader. The news from King Yu's mansion is now broken and can't be contacted. What? Empress Lin's face was full of disbelief, with the same anxiety on her face. How could it be so? Isn't Zhao Wei obediently guarding the city gate? Why did he suddenly bring troops to attack the palace? Is he crazy? Besides, there's my brother. Why hasn't my brother come yet? Dong Linho's face sank completely, and he said, the leaders are Yan Beicheng and Yan Sichuan. Now your brother has no news. Your Royal Highness Ling. I'm afraid it won't be. Empress Lin faltered at her feet, nearly fell to the ground, her cheeks were pale. How could it be like this? How could it be like this? Li Er, what's the matter with Li Er? What's the situation like now? Dong Linho shook his head with a heavy face. I've said that. Now everything is not clear. Empress Lin felt soft all over, and even felt that her head was heavy and her feet were light. Her eyes were full of confusion. Father, what should I do now? If they beat them in, all this will be over. I have come to tell you about it. Dong Linhao suddenly stepped forward, holding Empress Lin's shoulder tightly in both hands. Listen, now find someone to release the Imperial Dr. Lu, and let him save your majesty. Then he orders the Imperial Guards to fight to death. When your majesty wakes up, he says that Yan Beicheng intends to rebel and win the throne. Empress Lin's eyes suddenly brightened, just like catching the last straw. She suddenly stood up. I'm going now. Then, regardless of her queen's manners, she stood up in a hurry and walked out. Looking at Empress Lin's back in a hurry, the Eastern Marquis also took out his sword and went to the most fierce place with the Imperial Guards. Zhao Wei had a large number of people. 5,000 soldiers, together with Yan Beicheng and Hua Qianliu's men, all existed as one block and 10. The 3,000 Imperial Guards in the palace couldn't last long, so they had retreated to the gate of Yangxin Hall, taking Yangxin Hall as the center, making the final resistance. King Yu, Prince 13, you are plotting a rebellion. Donglinhao was guarded in the center by the Imperial Guards, and angrily yelled to Yan Xinchuan in Yanbei City, Your Royal Highness Ling Wang sealed the inscription and went to exterminate the anti-thief. You fight together, but you also hurt Your Royal Highness Ling Wang seriously. Now you are attacking the palace again. You are conspiring. Both Yan Beicheng and Yan Xinchuan are riding on the horse, looking coldly at the angry East Marquis. As soon as Yan Beicheng wanted to open his mouth, he felt the qi and blood in his chest surging, and there was a smell of fishy sweetness in his throat. He pressed his lips tightly and forced down the fishy sweetness that had reached his throat. Yan Xinchuan's gentle temperament is doomed to be unable to shout out in such a battle. And the most eloquent Flower Willow and South Crane do not know where to go at the moment, not in them. As a result, Mo Shanghua raised her voice with her internal power, and said impolitely, Dong Linho is so old that she has the cheek to confuse black and white here? Who in the end directed and acted by himself in an attempt to take advantage of this incident and remove King Yu and the 13 princes together. Fortunately, he inherited the throne, and the discerning people will naturally know at a glance. He pointed to his nose and scolded him for being cheeky. Facing Ho in the east, he couldn't hold on to his old face. He held back his anger and said, Nonsense. It is clear that you have bewitched the people, intended to rebel and seek the throne. Mo Shanghua coldly raised the corner of his lips, and the irony in his eyes was not concealed. Facing the Marquis in the east, Yan Moli has been captured, and all your affairs have been told by him. Now your majesty is controlled by you in the palace, and you are in a coma. You have no way to explain. Donglinhao said that he couldn't help but see the flowers on the street. His wrinkled face turned red. He simply looked over the flowers and looked at Zhao Wei behind her. General Zhao, you have always been regarded by your majesty as a bodyguard. Now do you believe this woman's nonsense? Don't forget that your Zhao family is full of martyrs. You are the third generation here. If you are bewitched for a while and your Zhao family's Qingyu boxing is destroyed in your hands, your grandfather will not be able to die. Smell speech, Zhao Wei holding the reins of the hand tight, turn eyes forget to spend one eye, eyes light micro flash. Mo Shanghua's sight suddenly cooled down, and the corner of his lips raised a cold radiance. You are facing the Marquis in the east. You want to bewitch people in front of the battle because you are weak. It's really mean. After a pause, she turned her eyes and looked at Zhao Wei, General Zhao, you can doubt my intentions, but please think carefully. If I say anything to you, if there is a false word I say, it is your majesty who is standing here at the moment to question harshly. Zhao Wei looked a little ashamed and lowered his head. It was the last general who was stupid. He was almost instigated before the battle. Yanbei City didn't turn his eyes, but his voice was calm and slightly cold. General Zhao, it's a taboo in the army to turn around before the war. Zhao Wei was more and more ashamed. He clasped his hands and said in a stuffy voice, I'll be ashamed. I won't be instigated. Mo Shanghua coldly looked at Dong Linho, who was black again. He deliberately picked his lips and laughed, Dong Linho, you are at this age, but you have to work for your daughter, Empress Lin. If you don't say that, now all the people in the family have to bear the accusation of treason. It's you who shame your ancestors and let your children and grandchildren bear the consequences for you. After a pause, she said with red lips, the crime of treason should be punished. The old and drooping eyelids of the Eastern Marquis suddenly shook, don't talk nonsense to confuse black and white. The flowers on the street sneer at the corners of their lips, not saying much. When Yan Beicheng saw this, he pressed down his blood and said in a cold voice, if you are a marquis in the east, if you give up now, your descendants may have a chance to live. It's just a thief who threatens me like this. I've been on the battlefield for more than 10 years, and I've never been afraid of anyone. I'll never listen to you. Donglin Hao killed Yan Beicheng and others. They are anti-thieves. They will not let go anyway. At this time, the Yangxin Hall is also in a panic. Lu Wang and others knelt shivering in the outer hall, and the voice of cry in front of the door of Yangxin Hall came from their ears. The tense and bitter atmosphere seemed to have passed through several layers of walls and reached here, which made Lu Wang swallow his mouth. God, he had never seen such a battle in the palace for most of his life. It really killed him. But Empress Lin in the hall couldn't help smashing a teacup directly on Lu Zheng's shoulder. Her eyes were red and she said in a cold voice, "What's the matter with you? Aren't you super skilled? How can your majesty not be cured?" Although Beirongdi's illness was caused by her hands and feet, Lu Yui, who gave her the prescription, had no ability to cure it. That's all right. Unexpectedly, even Lu Zheng couldn't help it. The situation outside the hall was whispered to her by the palace maid every moment. Thinking of this, she was more and more anxious. She grabbed Lu Zheng's collar and threatened, "If you can't cure your majesty, the palace will kill you immediately." After all, Empress Lin is a woman. Even so, she can't make Lu Zheng stand on tiptoe, even higher than Empress Lin. He glanced down at Empress Lin's hand, and his voice was still gentle. "Empress, calm down. I'm not an immortal. Your Majesty's body has been in deficit for a long time. Once you fall down, it will come true that you are as sick as a mountain. You can't go back to heaven anymore." Empress Lin let go of Lu Zheng's hand. She stepped back 2 steps in a trance. Fortunately, the female official helped her, but she didn't fall down. How can it be? Are you King Yu's person? You have no intention at all. Lu Zheng is standing with his hands down. His eyes are gentle. He is just a weak scholar. Now he is not in a panic in front of the queen who is close to collapse. The queen's nerves are stimulated at the moment. She wants to have a rest in the future. Empress Lin was stimulated by Lu Zheng's words, and she said coldly, "Go away." "Yes." Lu Zheng nodded slightly and retreated to the outer hall. Turning to the extreme, he turned his eyes and looked at Baorong Emperor, who was lying on the bed with a faint breath. There was a faint light in his eyes. Empress Lin naturally didn't notice that she was weak all over at the moment. Only with the support of the female officer could she barely stop. "Did you just go out to see it again?" The female official nodded, and her face was white. Empress Lin took a deep breath and tried to stand firm. "What's the situation now?" The female official hesitated for a long time, then said in a soft voice, "Now, the Yangxin Hall has been surrounded. His Royal Highness Yu and the 13 princes are in charge, and His Royal Highness Ling is not seen." Empress Lin's body suddenly softened, and even the female officials struggled to hold her, and she almost fell to the ground with her. "Nyang Nyang, you should take care of yourself. If it's a big deal, we'll kill you. It's the rebellion of King Yu. We'll be fine." The female official has been with Empress Lin for decades. Now, seeing her like this, she can't bear it. She has to endure the fear in her heart, and her eyes are red and comforting. Empress Lin shook her head in despair and pulled her arm out of the female officer's hand. Then she knelt down on the ground slowly. Evil causes have been planted, and things have come to such a state that there is no room for turning around. If Emperor Baorong can't wake up, even if she's killing Yan Beicheng, what's the matter? Emperor Baorong's death and Yan Moli's being arrested again. Isn't it time for King Yu or Yan Sichuan? At that time, how to conclude the matter is no longer what she can tell. Think of here, Empress Lin, sad from the heart, refused the female official's help, some embarrassed to climb to Baorong Emperor's collapse. Looking at Baorong Emperor's eyes closed and her face pale, she could not help holding the brocade quilt on Baorong Emperor's body. "Your Majesty, in fact, you have nothing to do. You are deceiving me, aren't you? You get up quickly, don't cheat me," said. She tightly grasped the hand of brocade quilt, and grasped the skirt of Barong Emperor again. "Your Majesty, your sons are going to attack now. If you don't get up again, the kingdom of God will change. Qin Kingdom will take advantage of the opportunity. The whole kingdom of God will not be protected." In this way, Barong Emperor, who was lying on the bed, still had no reaction. He closed his eyes peacefully, his face seemed to be a little old, and his forehead raised a little deeper. Looking at Barong Emperor's old face, Empress Lin couldn't help stroking Barong Emperor's forehead. Her voice was desperate and slightly resentful. "I've followed you all my life. My only wish is to let Li Heir sit on the throne. If you didn't favor the 13th prince, how could things come to this place?" Thinking of this, Empress Lin said with a sad smile, "Since this is the case, why don't you die with your concubine? In this way, we can be regarded as living in the same bed and dying in the same coffin." With that, a pair of her well-maintained hands suddenly moved down, trembling, and moved to Baorongdi's neck. She closed her eyes and tried to pinch them down. At that time, only Empress Lin and her close female officials were in the palace. Seeing that Empress Lin was so crazy, the official was so scared that she cried out, "Empress can't do it." Empress Lin's hands trembled slightly, but her strength didn't slacken. Instead, she bit her teeth and went on. "I never thought that as soon as I used my strength, I was tightly grasped by a pair of powerful hands." Barong Emperor, who had been lying safely for a day, suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Empress Lin's eyes full of fierce. Empress Lin trembled all over and opened her eyes instantly. What she saw was Emperor Baorong's angry and fierce eyes. Empress Lin felt both shock and joy in her heart. But the next second, she could see her situation clearly. She was so weak that she almost fainted on the spot. "Come on." Lu Wen. Barong Emperor tightly grasped Empress Lin's hand with one hand, and sat up with the other hand. He cried aloud, a little tired in his voice. Lu Wen, who had been kneeling in the outer hall, suddenly heard the voice of Emperor Baorong. He was very smart. He didn't care about the presence of Empress Lin. He quickly got up and ran in. Kneeling in front of the bed, he even slipped forward because of his speed. Empress Lin's hand was grasped by Emperor Baorong, and she could not kneel down, but her whole body was soft, and she could not speak with trembling lips. Barong Emperor loose tightly grasped the hand of Empress Lin. Empress Lin was weak, at the moment can't control directly fell on the ground, Zhu Chai all over the head fell a few. The woman officer had been so scared that she knelt on the ground and shivered that she didn't have time to help Empress Lin. It's all over. Empress Lin was in complete despair, and tears rolled down her eyes. The awakening of Baorongdi completely changed the situation. However, the people outside the temple did not know. Mo Shanghua and the Eastern Marquis have been fighting for several times, but they have no patience. They are about to hear Yan Beicheng's direct weapons intersect, but they see that Lu Zheng in the hall suddenly arrives at the gate of the hall at this moment. Although he was just a modest scholar, he dared to stand behind the troops of the Marquis in the east. He raised his voice and said, "Your Majesty is awake, Marquis in the east. Let's go and catch him." Unexpectedly, Donglinhao smiles instead of anger. He turns his head and looks at Mo Shanghua and others in Yanbeicheng. "Your Majesty is awake. Do you dare to follow me to see your Majesty in person to see who intends to rebel?" Mo Flower lips gently hook up, there is no fear on the face, how dare not. Words fall, turn Mao to see Yan North City one eye. There was no expression on Yan Beicheng's face. When Yan just raised his hand and said, "Wait here." Finish saying, then turn over to dismount directly, then turn around, stretch out a hand to come, see to haven't dismounted of Mo Shanghua, the vision softens down. Mo Shanghua's lips slightly curled up, and he turned over and got off the horse, and then put his hand in the palm of Yan Beicheng. Two hands slowly tighten, 10 fingers clasp. Yan Sichuan was not in the mood to talk and laugh with them. He got off the horse and walked quickly. At this time, the imperial guards in the hands of the Eastern Marquis also made way one after another, and their weapons were put down temporarily. As soon as he entered the hall, Yan Sinshuan, the biological son of Baorong Emperor in Yanbei City, had not opened his mouth, so he knelt down in tears and said, "Your Majesty, you are awake. If you don't wake up all the time, I'm afraid you won't see me." As he said this, he glanced at Empress Lin standing by. At one glance, he realized that it was wrong. If Empress Lin had just woken up in Baorong, she would have turned black and white upside down. At this moment, she should not have such an expression. But at this moment, Empress Lin was standing beside her with a pale face and didn't say a word. "See east face ho to see come over," her lip petal just moved, but a word all vomit not. Yan Sinshuan knelt down beside Donglin Hao and saw that Baorong Emperor was sitting on the bed unharmed. He was relieved. Then he turned his eyes and glared at Donglin Hao. "In front of his father, you should frame us like this." At the moment, Yan Beiqing had completely put away the appearance of the dandy outside, half handsome and half coquettish. Smell speech, he also can't help but lift lip sneer, the matter exactly how, the father emperor has the eye to be able to distinguish. This belongs to the dispute between their father and son. Mo Shanghua simply no longer speak, leaving all the time for their father and son. Beirongdi's face was not good-looking. After sitting for a while, he was tired. However, today's things do not allow him to fall down. "Come on, take down Donglin Hao." Baorong Emperor didn't have the heart to listen to Donglin Ho Fen, so he gave the order directly. Donglin Ho was surprised and almost stood up directly. He was puzzled and unwilling to say, "What does your Majesty mean? Right and wrong are tortuous. I'm clear about it." "Come on." Baorong Emperor's gloomy eyes fell on the face of Donglin Marquis, and his voice was very cold. Unfortunately, at the moment, the people outside the hall were either Baorong Emperor or Empress Lin, and no one came for a long time. At this time, Mo Shanghua quietly retreated. Her eyes crossed the Imperial Guard who was still holding fast outside the hall, and the voice of her internal power spread far away. "Your Majesty has a life. Take down Donglin Hao immediately." Then, his eyes swept over the stunned guards in front of him one by one. "If you don't go along with Donglin Hao at this time, you may be able to pursue his guilt lightly." The guards of the Imperial Forest looked at each other face to face for a moment. Then they lost their weapons, knelt down and cried out, "The end will be guilty." Not to mention that Emperor Baorong has awakened and Marquis Donglin Hao has been convicted, these guards will be enough for them. This is not a war between the family and the country. Naturally, people will not fight to the end with their lives. When Zhao Wei saw this, he turned over and dismounted. With a wave of his hand, thousands of guards immediately took care of the guards who had surrendered. Then he strode forward and said, "What will your Majesty do?" "Your Majesty has just called." Mo Shanghua light mouth, turned and walked back. Zhao Wei thought about it and ordered several soldiers to follow him. Then he entered the palace together. At this time, Donglin Hao could not accept such a fact. At last, he could not help but get up suddenly. His withered body trembled slightly. "Your Majesty, I have been loyal to you for so many years, so you treat me like this?" Emperor Baorong's tired face suddenly flashed a look of anger and exclaimed in a cold voice, "I have given you the position of Marquis and real power, but you conspire to revolt. Are you worthy of me? Worthy of your Lin family's ancestors? Come on, take him down quickly." At this time, Empress Lin finally knelt down in tears, full of despair. "Father, the overall situation has been decided." In the east, Ho's old body shakes and retreats a few steps before he can stand still. His wrinkled face is gray. Zhao Weiqia came in at this time. He also listened to Emperor Baorong's orders clearly. He bowed to Emperor Baorong for a little salute and ordered 2 guards to escort Donglin Hao. Baorong Emperor's eyes turned to Empress Lin kneeling on the ground again. His voice was cold, and there was no trace of affection to speak of. "The Empress will be temporarily imprisoned in Cunning Palace." Empress Lin had lost her strength and was full of despair. Renyuan people dragged her down without too much struggle. Baorong Emperor, this just some tired waved, "I'll go down." Yan Beiqing got up cleanly and stepped down directly. Yan Sinshuan's steps stopped, but he looked at Barong Emperor with some concern. In the end, he didn't ask much and went down together. Mo Shanghua didn't enter this time, so he waited outside. Seeing that Yan Beiqing came out so soon, he didn't ask much. He just took the initiative to hold his hand and whispered, "It's over at last." Yan Beiqing gently clenched her hand, thin lips pulled out a light radiance. However, before a word was uttered, there was a sudden upsurge of fishy and sweet air in my mouth, which was so fierce that I couldn't control it. Then my head sank and I fell down. Mo Shanghua's whole heart was pulled up in an instant. For the first time, a flustered mood flashed across his cold and indifferent face. "Beiqing, Yan Beiqing." Yan Xinchuan also hurried forward. Come on, come on." Yan Beiqing was finally sent to the 13th prince's mansion. One of them was closest to the palace, and the other one was destroyed by most of Yu's mansion. It was Yan Xinchuan who had not been cleaned up yet. There was no damage or casualties. Next, there will be a series of rectification. Emperor Baorong was very angry about this incident. He directly abolished the queen, and Yan Moli's title was also completely dethroned. Both mother and son were locked in the patriarchal mansion, and there was no chance to see the son again. And the charge of treason of Donglinhao is not so easy to let go. The crime of treason should be punished. Even General Lin, who was on the border, was arrested for the first time. In the rest of the Lin family, all the men who were over 16 years old were beheaded. Before 16 years old, they were exiled to the border areas. When 16 years old, women were turned into military prostitutes. Those who were dissatisfied were sold into slavery and never turned over. At this point, the whole Queen family completely declined. Barong Emperor's edict was issued that night and announced to the world. At the same time, the Prime Minister's office. General Chen, struggling with the pain of bandaging, gritted his teeth and said, "I wanted to catch cicadas with a mantis, but the yellow sparrow is behind. I never thought that King Yu had such strong strength to destroy all my subordinates. Now the imperial edict of the palace has come down. I'm afraid it's difficult for us to act." Lu Bohan walked back and forth in the room with his negative hand. After hearing the words, his eyes changed a lot. Finally, he sighed, "Go back, let me think about it." "Go back." Chen General almost jumped up in an instant. Ling Wang defeated, "I also participate in it, do you think I can go back to good?" Lu Bohan looked at General Chen with a gloomy face. "It's good that I can take you here. What else do you want?" General Chen sneered and threatened fiercely, "It's all because of your plan that I tried to cheat King Ling out of his trust. Now my people are dead, and I'm reduced to this point. If you can't send me out of the city, I'll tell you all about your plan. No one can think of it better." Lu Bohan's forehead was full of green tendons, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Good, very good." His half-inch-long beard trembled slightly because of his anger. "Housekeeper, prepare some money for him and send him out of the city as soon as possible." The housekeeper answered and said respectfully, "General, this way, please." With a sneer, General Chen glanced at Lu Bohan, stood up and limped out with the housekeeper. The housekeeper followed Lu Bohan for many years. Naturally, this matter would not go wrong. He soon handled everything properly and found a carriage to send General Chen out of the city quietly. Before the carriage reached the gate of the city, it was suddenly stopped by a man and a woman. When the coachman saw someone standing in the middle of the road, he quickly reined and the carriage slowly stopped. Hua Qianlu stood upright in the middle of the road, holding the folding fan in his hand, smiling lazily and casually, "General Chen, you really want to wait for me?" As soon as the voice fell, Nanhe raised his foot and kicked it on his leg. "Put your broken fan away." Flower Thousand Willow Pain of show teeth, but also dare not refute, hastily put away the fan. "Please General South Crane smile." Nanhe snorted, raised his chin slightly, and his eyes fell coldly. "General Chen, I don't know if you still remember us." General Chen listened to the figure of a man and a woman outside the carriage. Then he lifted the curtain and poked his head out of the carriage. "Who are you? What's the purpose?" Smell speech, flower thousand willow smile to sing of remind, Chen general expensive person forgets a thing more, let this child to remind for general. That day, you had a secret talk with a mysterious man, intending to seek the throne, but you were overheard. Do you remember? Chen general looked up and down at this time two people one eye, slightly narrowed eyes, you are not dead? Afterwards, he clearly found the bodies of two men in black in the city, which were very similar to those in front of him. South Crane called a beautiful face, Wei, not only that, we still know clearly now, and you make peace with that person, is Lu Xiang Lu Bo Han. Chen General's eyes are gloomy to stare at two people to see for a long time, then suddenly put down the car curtain, malicious mouth, hit past, nothing to do. The coachman hesitated, this. Rubbish. Chen General is exasperated to lift the car curtain again immediately, draw out the short sword between the waist to insert the horse's buttocks directly. Startled by the pain, the horse hissed and ran forward like mad. During this period of time, Hua Qianlu and Nan He had already developed an unspeakable tacit understanding. They looked at each other and then quickly flashed away at the same time. At the moment when the carriage was speeding by, they jumped onto the carriage with a light point on their toes, and surrounded the frightened coachman from left to right. The coachman was frightened by the horse, but now when he saw that the two men had just boarded the carriage out of thin air, his blood fainted. Hua Qianlu and Nan He didn't have time to pay attention to the coachman, so they leaned directly into the carriage. Hua Qianlu just put his head in, and a short sword went straight to his neck. He quickly lifted the sword to block him. It's natural that General Chen is good at his present position with a white suit, but he has hurt his leg now, so he will suffer a loss if he really fights. Fortunately, there is very little space in the carriage, so it's very hard to fight. Nanha, a petite man, went into the carriage to fight with General Chen. But in a short time, the carriage broke apart with a loud bang. The wood chips and boards were flying in all directions. The coachman also screamed and flew out together. He fell to the ground unconscious. The horse was hit by the flying board. It ran faster and faster. It was about to hit the city wall. Nanha and Hui Qianliu didn't care much. They jumped out of the carriage and landed on the ground steadily. General Chen was not so lucky. He was injured in his leg and couldn't jump down neatly. It was just the result that his other leg was broken together. After thinking for a while, the carriage ran into the wall, and he fell back to the ground with a scream. Unfortunately, when he landed, he fell on the top of a broken door panel and lost his breath. The new guard at the gate looked at each other for a long time and gathered around. Flower thousand willows spread out hand, full face helpless, this cannot blame you and me. Stop talking nonsense and go back to the office. The South Crane is deeply aware of the fact that Hua Qianlu talks a lot. Without saying a word, he pulls his collar and walks back. This is on the street, you just left me some face, Hua Qianlu was grabbed by the South Crane and started shouting. But when you look at it carefully, the smile flashed between her eyebrows. The palace of Imperial Concubine Chen. The third prince panted into the inner hall. When Chen Fei, who had been pacing in the hall, saw him coming, she quickly came forward and grasped his arm. How's your uncle? Imperial Concubine Chen is the sister of General Chen. And Chen Fei's foot ban was lifted as early as after the former Empress Lin lifted the foot ban. We have news. The third prince wiped the sweat on his forehead, but he hesitated for a long time. Chen Fei's eyes looked earnestly at the third prince, and the uneasiness in her heart became more and more intense. Say it quickly. The third prince was silent for a moment, and then said, my uncle took part in the second brother's conspiracy, and he wanted to escape from the palace privately. Unexpectedly, he was shocked, bumped into the wall, and died. What Chen Fei grabbed the third prince's arm and suddenly tightened her hand, shaking her body. Mother Princess. The third prince is a dutiful son. He quickly and firmly holds Princess Chen, Mother Princess, this is because my uncle is too dazzled. You can have fun. Don't be too sad, and your father is angry with you. When Chen Fei heard the words, she felt a surge of anger in her head. She didn't know where the strength came from. She raised her hand and hit the third prince in the face. You bastard! Do you know? Your uncle is for you. The last sentence had reached her throat, but she still swallowed it, tears in her eyes, full of regret. In the final analysis, they were too fanciful. They even wanted a mantis to catch cicadas after several princes were defeated, but they didn't know that King Yu was really powerful. Yen Moli couldn't compete with him. From the beginning, they shouldn't have asked for it. And the third prince, he is soft and timid. If he knew it early, he would show his feet in front of others. Therefore, Chen Fei and General Chen didn't tell him about it. They wanted to tell him about it directly after it was finished. That is to say, he didn't want to and could only ascend the throne. Unexpectedly, he got such a result. Think of here, Chen Fei sad from the heart, slowly walked to the chair to sit down. Finished, Wei Chen also finished. The third prince covered his swollen and painful cheek beaten by Imperial concubine Chen. He went to Imperial concubine Chen with his head down. After a long time, he didn't know how to comfort her. Princess Chen just sat with tears streaming down her face. Concubine, do you have something to hide from me? Is there something else about my uncle's death? After a long silence, the third prince suddenly raised his eyes and looked at Chen Fei. Chen Fei's heart, which was already dead, jumped fiercely. Almost immediately, she denied, nothing happened. After a pause, she got up again, grasped the third prince's arm tightly in both hands, and stared at him. This matter must not be mentioned again. Don't mention anything about your uncle in front of your father, or plead for the Chen family. The third prince nodded his head in confusion and doubt. He felt confused in his heart. Looking at such a dull son, Princess Chen settled down in her heart. Her son is not very intelligent, otherwise, I'm afraid that at such a time, she would not be willing to fight. And this time, she will always write down, no longer dare to think about that position. At that time, Yan Beicheng was lying quietly on his bed, even in a coma, and his cold breath was not reduced at all. The clothes on his chest were untied, revealing the tight skin of white jade. But he was slapped by Yan Mo, but there was no scar. There was only a faint black air around his chest. This thing is invisible in Yan Sinchuan's eyes, only the flower on the street can see it clearly. Even, the black air seems to have some magic power, which makes her quite uncomfortable. Even so, she still did not let go of her hand, holding Yan Beicheng tightly. Her eyes were fixed on Yan Beicheng's chest, her red lips were tight, and her eyes were full of worry and anxiety. What's the matter? Why is there no scar? Why is pulse condition also normal? Why is it that I'm in such a coma? Mo Shanghua has always been very confident in her medical skills, but she never thought that she could cure all the people in the world, but she could not cure the most important man in front of her. Think of here, her heart suddenly a burst of pain, the anxiety in the heart let her several desire madness. However, she is good at covering up, that is, how she is in her heart, and she still can't help it. In the eyes of outsiders, she is just dementia, so she quietly holds Yan Beicheng's hand and sits silently. Sister Huang, if you don't want to let Dr. Lu have a look, maybe you can find a way. Mo Shanghua sat here for a long time, and Yan Sinchuan stayed with him for a long time. I couldn't bear it, and I couldn't help gently comforting him. Mo Shanghua held Yan Beicheng's hand tightly, and finally released his hand temporarily, giving way to a position. Lu Zhang's eyes are complex to see a flower on the street, and then just came forward, for Yan Beicheng pulse diagnosis and treatment. Under this pulse, his brow also tightly tightened up. How is this possible? Since the body is all right, why can you be in a coma? Think of here, he raised his hand to open Yan Beicheng's eyelids to have a look, but Mo Shanghua raised his hand to stop him, hoarse voice, no, nothing can be found. After standing in the air for a long time, Lu finally took it back and said in a low voice, since there is no scar, maybe he will wake up soon. Mo Shanghua shook his head, there was no expression on his beautiful face. You all go out. Others can't see it, but in her eyes, Yan Beiqing's side is also full of black air, which will make people feel uncomfortable when they are close. Yan Xinchuan could not see that Imo Shanghua was so depressed, nor could Yan Beiqing look like this. He clenched his fist and said, I'll go to the Zhongrenfu to find the second emperor brother. I must ask him what evil things he has practiced. Said, regardless of the personal boy's dissuasion, turned and left. The flowers on the street did not turn back, nor did they make a sound to stop them. They were dead in their hearts. Princess. Qinye knows Mo Shanghua best. Seeing her like this, she knows that he must be so sad that he can't help whispering. All out. Mo Shanghua directly interrupts Qinye's words and repeats what he just said. Qinye wants to say something else. Mo Ling, who has been injured and has not yet been cured, looks at her and indicates with her eyes. Qinye just stopped and went out first with Mo Ling, call me if you need me, and I'll wait at the door. Lu was whispering after her, and then he turned and went out. When everyone went out, Mo Shanghua moved her dry lips again, and her voice was especially hoarse. Yan Beiqing, what are you doing? Are you trying to tease me again? Yanbei City on the bed had no reaction, still lying quietly. The heart of the flower on the street is filled with bitterness. Xian Chang is as cold as her. At this time, her eyes are especially sour. It seems that as long as you blink, tears will fall directly. But she never allowed herself to be so fragile. She raised her head and forced back the hot tears in her eyes. She said with a helpless and painful smile, you are really bad. I was told to be careful before. I didn't expect that I was plotted against you. You don't miss it. You bury a trap early. Yan Moli steps into the palace and orders Lu Zheng to replace the medicine given by the queen to Baorong Emperor, making him just in a temporary coma. Why didn't you calculate for himself? Mo Shanghua said word by word, although his voice is hoarse, but very gentle. You said before that your mother's wife was framed. The real backstage is Empress Lin, right? You haven't told me personally, Yan Beiqing. Do you know that your revenge has been avenged? Emperor Baorong has been too stimulated and completely ill now. Everything is over. In the future, we can have a long time to play. Why don't you get up and share this joy with us? Unfortunately, no matter what she said, Yan Beiqing was still lying on the bed with her eyes closed, and there was no sign of awakening. Yan Beiqing. Mo Shanghua put Yan Beiqing's hand on her cheek, and her voice was very light and gentle. Our children are waiting for you to wake up. You must be safe and sound. Between speaking, she blinked, a drop of tears fell on the back of Yan Beiqing's hand. Huaqian Liyuna, who came back the latest, was supposed to have a good drink with Yan Beiqing. I didn't think that when I came in, I saw Yan Beiqing in a daze, and the flower on the street was almost desperate. What's going on? Flower Willow busy stride to the bed, habitual smile also closed up, brow tightly locked. South Crane also went to the couch with flowers and willows. Why did the Lord become like this? Mo Shanghua's originally gentle eyes were suddenly covered with a deep layer of cold, expressionless enunciation. There are no scars on the body, and the pulse condition is normal. I can recognize what you see. Although Hua Qianlu didn't know the medical skills, he was dignified when he heard Mo Shanghua say that. Have you seen all of them? But what are the side effects? Mo Shanghua shook his head and clenched Yan Beiqing's hand. I don't know why. But in any case, she will not give up. If Yan Beiqing is so unconscious, she will guard his life as he used to guard her in secret. If something goes wrong, there must be a demon. There must be no sign at all. South Crane is calm, slightly bent over, two hands on the shoulder of Mo Shanghua. You calm down, in careful look, maybe there will be something to find. South Crane's words, let the beautiful flowers on the street gently frown. Since Yan Beiqing was in a coma, she was so calm. In fact, her heart had been in chaos. At this time, Nanha's words made her thinking ability gradually recover. If we say something unusual, it is the dark air in the chest of Yanbei City. But Hua Qianlu and Nan he couldn't see it either. She was afraid that she was too anxious to read it wrong. But at this time, she was alarmed. Think carefully, in the palm of Yen Mo Li's hand before, seemed to also linger this breath. Maybe, a possibility surged up in my heart, and the flowers on the street almost stood up, and disappeared in a flash. Qingling's voice came from afar, guard for me, don't allow anyone to come near. Looking at flowers in the street, Hua Qianlu and Nanhe look at each other, and they can see a sigh in each other's eyes. However, they have no plans to love each other at the moment. They conscientiously remember the words of Mo Shanghua and guard Yen Beiqing in the house. When the flowers came out of the palace, they directly asked for a fast horse and drove the horse around the city. At this time, the imperial city was still in the middle of the revolution, so there were no pedestrians on the streets, so they didn't worry about spending money on the streets. They just rushed to Ning Songji's present residence as soon as possible. Better no. As soon as I got to the door, the flower on the street didn't care to tie up the horse, so I went up and patted the door directly. Soon someone opened the door, but it was Shui. She frowned and looked at the flowers on the street with displeasure. In such a hurry, is it not that the defeat has been chased nowhere to go? Mo Shanghua didn't have time to talk with her, so she went directly over her to the hospital. I don't have time to fight with you now. I thought Shui might still be in a dilemma. I didn't think she was just playing with her mouth. She didn't dare to stop her when she really went in. Ning knows in the courtyard to know just at this time pace but come out, also just a faint smile to go up the Mo Shang flower. I know your intention, go. So, he's really a clever one. Mo Shanghua wants to think more about the future, and immediately turns sharp. Ning knows that she will follow. She was so anxious that she didn't want to delay at all, but there was only one horse. She simply gave the horse to Ning Tongji, but she mobilized her internal power and directly carried the lightness skill Ji Qie back. Soon came to the palace. Missouri Shanghua pushed open the door, pulled Ning Tongji over, did not care to wipe the sweat on his forehead, panted and asked, I only asked, can you see it? While speaking, one hand pointed directly at Yen Beiqing's chest. The flower willow on one side has not recovered from the speed of flowers on the street, but also heard her so inexplicably come, more confused, what can you see but can't see? However, no one answered him. Rather no even did not look at the direction of flowers on the road, then gently nodded, see. There was a doubt in the eyes of flowers on the street. He went forward and pulled Yen Beiqing's skirt open. Just when his fingertips met the black air, it was as if he had been burned by something. His fingertips were stinging and burning, but there was no scar when he raised his hand. Rather no brow, this just slightly wrinkled a few minutes, low voice exhort, you can't touch this thing. Why? What the hell is this? I just feel so stingy, so what should he do? Is it life-threatening? Mo Shanghua took back her hand in her heart. Xiumei wrinkled her eyes tightly. Her worry became more and more intense. A series of questions could not dispel her confusion and anxiety. One side of the flower willow and south crane is to see the fog. Listen to the meaning of flowers on the street is that there seems to be something in Yen Beiqing's chest, which can be seen from their sight. It is clear that there is nothing. What are they talking about? Looking at Hua Qianlu still want to open his mouth, Nanhe raised his hand and twisted it around his waist, then glared at him, let's go out first and wait outside the room. The house was so quiet that Hua Qianlu had to endure the pain. She didn't dare to go out with Nanhe. Lu Zheng is also waiting outside. He sees them smiling politely, and then he sits aside. At that time, Ning Tongji put his hand over an inch of Yen Beiqing's chest and explained, King Ling was interested in some of the Wuxian's techniques before, so he ordered people to watch me all the time. I simply gave him a book of the cultivation of immortals at will. As he said this, the palm of his hand, which covered Yen Beiqing's chest, gave out a light white light. The art of cultivating immortals was just bought by me at the market. I didn't expect that he believed it. I didn't know how to do it, and he developed some evil spirit. With his words, the light in the palm of his hand flourished. In a moment, he scattered the black qi everywhere. If he had vitality, he wanted to escape. However, the white light in Ning's hands seemed to have some attraction. It soon spread and wrapped the black qi in it, so that there was no escape for the black qi. Mo Shanghua has always known that the world may not be as simple as she imagined, but she never thought that such a spell actually exists. More than that, what's more shocking is that Yan Beicheng was hurt by the evil spirit. Think of here, Mo Shanghua's heart seems to be tightly grasped by a big hand. This evil spirit should be some evil things. If so, what kind of damage will it do to his body? Ning didn't answer. At this time, he had reached the key point. He suddenly turned his palm over. The originally scattered evil qi was wrapped up in something. Seeing that all these evil qi had been controlled by Ning Tongji, he suddenly turned his palm over again and put it directly on Yan Beicheng's chest. Ning knew that when he took back his hand, the strong evil spirit suddenly disappeared into his chest, and there was no trace. Mo Shanghua's heart suddenly jumps, her hands eagerly touch Yan Beicheng's chest, but she can't see a trace of black gas. Her eyes are congested and she turns her head anxiously. Isn't that evil gas? What are you doing? In the face of emotion cannot be so excited on the flowers, rather no, just a faint smile. You don't have to worry, these for him is not a bad thing. Mo Shanghua looks back at Yan Beicheng's face, eager to confirm whether Ning Tongji's words are true or false. However, the red birthmark on his face, which was controlled by drugs all the year round, suddenly disappeared at this time. A pretty face of a beautiful monster was no longer exposed in front of people. In a coma, Yan Beicheng seemed to have some consciousness. His sword eyebrows frowned slightly, and his consciousness groped on the bed. Mo Shanghua sent Su show up, and he held it tightly in an instant. Rao is so, that pair of deep eyes but still no sign to open. What's going on? Feel the back of the hand in the hot heat. Mo Shanghua heart anxiety almost burst out of the chest, really can't control the question again. Ning knows that he is standing beside his bed, dressed in white and with a faint smile on his lips. It seems that everything in the world can't escape from his eyes, just like a real expert. Mo Shanghua's eyes narrowed gradually, trying to restrain the panic caused by Yan Beicheng. What's your real purpose? I don't know why, she always has a premonition in her heart that this person seems to have seen through everything in the world and calculated everything. Even these days, she has seen everything in her eyes. Ning knew that he didn't seem to be surprised by the hostility of Mo Shanghua. With a slight smile, he said, everything in the world has its own destiny, but it's not uncommon to calculate the number of days. My real purpose is that you will know one day. In a word, I have no malice to you. After a pause, he added, these evil qi are absorbed by him, which may be fatal for you, but it may not be a bad thing for him. Within 3 days, he will wake up. You don't have to panic about any changes that have taken place in him. After 3 days, he will be all right. After an explanation, he didn't stop and turned to leave. Everything has cause and effect. You should take care of it. It's time for me to go back to the Wuxian clan. Everything has cause and effect. Mo Shanghua whispers this sentence repeatedly in her heart. It seems that there is a flash in her heart. She suddenly stands up, but because Yan Beicheng is holding her hand tightly, she can't leave, so she can only shout in a hurry, wait. Voice dropped, and Nin's familiar figure vanished like foam, with no trace. Such a shocking picture. Let me spend a long time back to God. Mean? What does mean? For a long time, the flowers on the street were beautiful and wrinkled tightly. I was surprised and suspicious. She suddenly remembered that she had been given the box by Ning Tongji, and she wanted to open it. But Yan Beicheng, who was in a coma, did not know where the strength came from, and held her tightly. Mo Shanghua had to do it again. She looked down at Yan Beicheng's evil face, and could not help raising her hand to caress his face with birthmark. It's hot to start with. In the exploration forehead, is also the same hot, even with her hand tightly clasped together are so hot. Mo Shanghua subconsciously felt Yan Beicheng's pulse with his empty right hand. Such a hot temperature, but the pulse is still normal. However, Yan Beicheng seemed to be a little uncomfortable. His brows tightened more and more tightly, and fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Mo Shanghua clenched Yan Beicheng's hand and put his cheek on his chest. It was really hot. I'll wait for you and protect you. Yan Bei City in front of her is enough to let Mo Shanghua put all her thoughts into it. She simply doesn't think about anything else and closes her eyes slightly. Simply, the hot body temperature and strong heartbeat all remind her that Yan Beicheng is safe and sound. He is just sleeping temporarily. In the Zhongrenfu, Yan Moli almost lost his mind in yesterday's World War I. Yan Sinshuan came to question angrily. Naturally, there was no result. On the contrary, as soon as he left the Zhongrenfu, he was called by Baorong Emperor. No one came to visit, and the jailers naturally drank wine in groups. There was no one else in the prison, and Yan Mo's crazy look slowly faded away. In the eagle's eyes, which were covered by disorderly hair, there flashed a strong and almost real evil. Yan Bei City, I didn't lose. One day, I will take your life personally. The voice, almost squeezed out of his teeth, came out of his mouth. As soon as he had said this, he sat cross-legged, closed his eyes again, put his hands on his knees, and recited a mental method in his heart. After reading Ning Tsong Zigyai's book, he combined some key points of internal skill and learned that mental skill by himself, but he didn't want to be so easy to use. If the only regret is that so far, he has only successfully used it yesterday, and some of it was not controlled. However, these are no harm. He believes that with his talent, if he reaches a certain level of cultivation, he will be free to control. I don't know that the book was just given by Ning Tongji. He had lived in the palace since he was a child. It was very secret. He didn't tell anyone about it, so he didn't think it was just written by a folk warlock. At this time, Ning Kongji appeared out of thin air and looked at Yan Moli, who was practicing. The prison of the Zhongren mansion was also a prison. Countless people died here. Naturally, the evil spirit was much stronger than usual. Therefore, in a moment, the evil spirit had been running slowly in Yan Moli's palm. It's something that shouldn't be here. Yan Moli is indeed an anomaly. Ning knew that his face was not indifferent. He looked at it for a while without expression. He suddenly raised his hand and waved it. A more intense white light flew straight towards Yan Mo than when he was curing Yan Bei City. The evil spirit that haunted Yan Mo Li's whole body was instantly dispersed, and there was no sign to exist. Yan Moli covered his chest and fell heavily on the ground. A smell of fishy and sweet came from his mouth and he spat out a mouthful of blood. It's you. Yan Mo Liqiang sat up and felt that there was just some evil qi in the dantian, but he couldn't even feel it. You really know magic. However, this spell seems to be different from what he knows. It seems to be extremely holy. Ning knows to drop the mu to sweep him one eye. The Mao inside has no a silk emotion. If see a more common mole ant general, these things shouldn't appear here. I just come to take back. What do you mean? Yan Moli endured chest pain, eyes flashed a touch of incredible. Ning knew but didn't explain. His figure disappeared directly in front of Yan Moli, which shocked him. He thought that if he had only found some ways, he could seriously injure Yan Beicheng. It can be seen that Ning Tongji's magic skills are so advanced. But what does he mean by what he just said? What do you mean? An idea loomed in Yan Mo Li's heart. At the moment, he couldn't care about the pain in his chest. He struggled to get up and concentrate on practice. However, no matter how much he concentrated on practicing, the elixir field was still empty, and the sense of mystery that just rose no longer existed. In his heart, he was really unwilling. He tried several more times, but still had no reaction at all. Even I can't feel the breath of internal power. I will kill you. Kill you. Yan Mo's eyes were full of blood, and his spirit collapsed again. Originally, he still had the idea of dormancy in his heart, but at this time, there was no chance at all. It's all over. He has lost completely and will never turn over. Thinking of this, Yan Moli was even more annoyed. He raised his hand and hit the wall again and again. He didn't know the pain. He murmured, "I'm going to kill you. I'll kill you." However, it was all in vain. For 3 days, Mo Shanghua stayed by Yan Beiqing day and night. Even when he had a rest at night, he simply lay down beside him and fell asleep with him, and never left for a moment. She had a little life in her belly, so she was very concerned about her body. Besides always staying by Yan Beiqing's side, she didn't miss eating and resting. Zhao Wei reported that Prince Lian's 20,000 imperial guards were at the foot of the city, and a young general wanted to see Yan Beiqing. Yan Beiqing is still in a coma, and Mo Shanghua hasn't seen the general without permission. He only asked Zhao Wei to report the matter to Emperor Baorong of Ming Dynasty. Then he observed the vision of the imperial city a few days ago, and a soldier Fang Langyan had to appear here. In fact, it was Yan Beiqing who ordered people to go there to prevent General Chen from leaving behind and fighting back afterwards. He didn't expect things to go so smoothly, so he didn't need it. Baorong Emperor also quickly made a decree, leaving 10,000 forbidden troops to fill the vacancy, and the remaining 10,000 went back to guard without any punishment to the prince. At that time, Mo Shanghua was taking a wet handkerchief to help Yan Beiqing wipe his forehead. Qinya, as before, stood behind Mo Shanghua and said to her about the trend of the imperial city in recent days. "Princess, guess who is the young general who entered the forbidden camp alone?" Mo Flower gently pick eyebrows. Han's action did not stop. "Who is it?" "It's General Mo Jiang Mo. It's said that he's still Prince Lian, and that's how he can get his talisman." Speaking of this, Qinya's eyes were all shining. "There's one more thing. I'd like to thank you, concubine Wang." Mo Shanghua had known what Qinya said for a long time. Seeing her so excited, she was surprised. Mo Jiang is thousands of miles away in Yuzhou, but he still has such a relationship with Prince Lian. In the past, he really couldn't see anything. "But what do you owe me?" Qinya turns to open the door with a smile. A man dressed in armor and covered with wind and dust came in quickly. Pudong knelt down straight in front of the flowers on the street. "I've seen the princess." Then he knocked his head on the ground. Mo Shanghua, the kowtow is so fast that she can't see who it is. However, the familiar voice, as well as Qinya's curved eyebrows and smiling lips, she also instantly knew. "Get up first." Mo Shanghua puts the handkerchief aside for the time being and gets up to help Qin Lin in person. Qin Lin was flattered by the strength of Mo Shanghua, with a full smile on his resolute dark cheek. Over the past few months, he has changed a lot. Not only has he lost all his servant appearance, but he has some light black stubble on his chin, which makes him look more manly. Qinya was very happy when she saw her brother's transformation. She gave a salute to Hua Fushan and said, "My brother is now the vanguard of General Mo. He depends on the princess for his success. I want to thank her here." Yan Beiqing has been in a coma for 3 days. In these 3 days, Mo Shanghua's mood has calmed down a lot. It's not that he can't see the smiling faces of his brother and sister, and he is happy for Qin Lin. Mo Shanghua raised her hand and patted Qin Lin on the shoulder. Her hands were full of the touch of iron armor. It's good to be able to jump from a recruit to the vanguard position in just a few months. Qin Lin, you really didn't let me down. Although his temperament and identity changed, Qin Lin habitually touched the back of his head with a simple and honest smile. In fact, it's just a slave who had good luck. He sneaked into northern Xinjiang with the general before and quietly burned General Nalin's grain and grass. Fortunately, he didn't die. Only in this way can he become a pioneer. Qinya immediately jumped in front of Qin Lin, and her face was full of pride. If you hadn't been brave and resourceful, you wouldn't have been so. Brother, don't be modest. Qin Lin was really embarrassed by Qinya's words. A blush appeared on his dark face. He scratched his back and didn't know how to refute. But the more Qinya saw, the more she felt that her elder brother was wearing armor. She couldn't help raising her hand and touching his armor. She sighed, "It's heavy to see. It's amazing that my elder brother can wear it every day." Just then, Mo Ling's voice sounded out of the door at this time. Tell Princess, I have something to report to you. Just come in. Qinya has not yet opened the door, Mo Shanghua has directly ordered. These days, Yan Beicheng is in a coma. No matter Mo Ling or Nan He, they spontaneously hand over Yan Beicheng's affairs to Mo Shanghua. However, after entering the house, he looked at Qinya for the first time. At this glance, a strange color flashed across his face. He forced himself to turn his head and salute in front of the flowers on the street. I've seen the princess. Mo Shanghua put Mo Ling's look into her eyes, but she only said, that's Qinya's brother, not an outsider. You can say something directly. Mo Lingmu's strangeness disappeared a little, and said, Princess, all the corpses in the palace have been disposed of, and the brothers who should be buried have been buried. But the palace is seriously damaged, and it will take at least 1 month to repair. At present, only 2 bedrooms can be set aside for you to live in the Lord. Mo Shanghua nodded slightly. This matter is not urgent, wait for your lord to wake up, and then discuss. My subordinates are leaving. Mo Ling has always been a little talkative. Now that the report is finished, he is ready to leave. As she turned around, her eyes swept around Qinya's delicate face uncontrollably, then she looked away and walked out without squinting. Qinya was also quite strange. She looked at Qin Lin and said, Brother, I suddenly remember that there are still some things I haven't done. You have nothing to do in the army these days. I'll come back to you later. Then he ran away with his skirt. But a moment later, she heard her voice outside the door, Brother Mo, wait for me. Qinya frowns at the half-open door, which Qinya forgot to close when she just went out. Princess, sister, is she with? Qin Lin hesitated for a long time, or can't help asking, but just said half, he can't say the following words. Seeing Qin Lin's broken heart for his sister, Mo Shanghua was amused. I seldom go out these days, and I don't know some things. What's more, Qinya's business should be watched by your elder brother. Qin Lin immediately understood something in his heart. He made a hasty salute to the flower on the street, and then he hurriedly retreated. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. Then he left in a hurry. When he went out, he forgot to close the door like Qinya. It's really brother and sister. Mo Shanghua's mood was a little better after 3 days of haze. He slowly stepped forward to close the door, and then simply leaned on the wooden door. His eyes fell on Yan Beicheng, who was still lying on the bed. The hot temperature of his body had gone down, but there was no change in his face. He was still in a daze. However, his face that suddenly disappeared birthmark, it was not found. After all, his birthmark was born on his right face, and when he lay down, others could only see his left cheek. Except for the flowers on the street, no one came near him, and naturally no one could see him. Yan Beicheng, you should wake up soon, right? When you wake up, let's deal with some of the last things here, and then go around to play, okay? In fact, I haven't seen the kingdom of God. Mo Shanghua leans against the door and looks at Yan Beicheng's handsome face from a distance. Her lips are gently tilted and curved, as if she has seen many things after he wakes up. What she thought in her heart was all the happiness in the future. However, she was just a habitual soliloquy, and did not expect Yan Beicheng to wake up immediately.